Hello, welcome to another episode of the Sitton Football Uncensored podcast with me, Joe Mealing, asking the questions. Today we're going to talk about the big one, the 25 years of hurt, possibly 50 years of hurt, England versus Germany. Is there a bigger game in football, which is tomorrow night? So we're recording this on Monday, 28th of June. This is the big one, John. England, Germany. Thoughts on the game, and it would be good to maybe put yourself in Southgate's shoes. You're the man to lead us out against Germany as the manager. Who do you play and why? And how do we beat them?
Yeah.
I was just trying to give it a big.
I'm looking at it from an England point of view. You are right. Yeah. We've got to put a marker down. We've got to put a marker down. We've got. I mean, if you look at the France game, and then slowly, yet again, right? So it's like every couple of years, and they keep reinventing this. So every couple of years, they've played their way into the tournament. But when you look at France, the 1-0, I think it was, wasn't it? That was never out of the game. That was never out, even with like the pace and the trickery, what I call it's actually a French expression, isn't it? The sort of laissez-faire attitude of the French to try things in and around the attacking third. They was never ever out of the game, and they kept it efficient as ever. They kept it at 1-0. So there's always that. It brings in that sort of. Where the opposition are concerned, in this, for instance, it was France. They get that like nervous 10 minutes. But ourselves, what we've got to do now is, if we're going to get serious about being contenders, we've got to put a marker down, and we've got to dispatch Germany. We've got to dispatch them. And I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking to myself, right, well, how do we go about it? That's your next thing. What I will say is, I mean, I'm looking at things why I can't get a job, or I ain't been able to get a job. Even a colleague said that I was too controversial, so I'm probably too controversial, perceived as too controversial, perceived as too volatile, perceived as maybe as unreliable for different reasons with stuff that people think went on, whereas I've been like basically as solid as a rock all the way through my career, and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, if I'm going to deal in reality, having learned from my mistakes, and one of them was when I was coaching at Orient, first team co-manager, first team coach. The formation I should have played a lot more, I didn't. I thought we were adequate as a back four. When I reflect, and our best chance, having had a career and played in a lot of teams where there was no real goal threat, I had the dubious privilege of coaching a team where there was no real goal threat. I should have on more occasions played a back five, right? So I'm looking at it, right? So let me qualify that, Joe. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at it from in two aspects. One of them I can counter in the respect that people have been saying on social media, yeah, but if you do that, if England do that, what you're doing, you're taking away strength in the forward area. You're sacrificing a forward player. Well, as someone who's played in every formation, I would disagree. I think it's at the end of the day, it gives you a solid foundation, a solid base to springboard attack from, and more poignantly, it depends, or more importantly, it depends how you play it. I think we saw it played very well last night by the Belgians.
Yeah.
Again, to qualify it, I would say you could end up with a thing that's been in vogue since Bielsa's been here. And I still maintain I saw it done in the 80s by David Webb, where you've got like 5 in the forward part of the game and a 5 in the defensive part of the game if it's rebounded on you, right? So if you want to go down that route and start thinking about the plagiarism which exists in football and nicking ideas from so-called world-class coaches, father figures to players and other coaches, then there's nothing wrong with that. Even though, like I said, I saw it done by David Webb at Brentford in the 80s. And he would insist that on one screening midfield player and that his fullbacks didn't go over the halfway line. So consequently, if the ball got rebounded on them, they were set up with a back four and a screening central midfield player. So there was always five as a reinforcement to the five that were attacking.
It's almost like five-a-side football in two halves, isn't it?
Yeah, but that brings me to the third thing, Joe. You saying that, you've got to be, which I think he is, I think you've got to be pragmatic, you've got to be realistic, you've got to break things down. I'm a great believer in deconstructivism in terms of the game to build it back up again. And I think that looking at it, honestly don't think we're good enough to play with a flat back four and achieve our aims, the semi-final, final, last eight, whatever. I think we'll be better with a reinforced central area. Double reinforcement if you count Rice and Phillips, or Rice and some another. We're far better with I think we're at this moment in time with a back five or a back three centre backs.
All right. So with that in mind, then, who would you play?
What in terms of a back five?
Well, who would you? What's the team?
Yeah, there's
based
a bit
on
of a
the
thing
performances and just based on the performances and stuff.
Yeah, I mean Pickford's he ain't put a foot wrong so far. No. Even in the friendlies, I thought he was exemplary. You know what I mean? He's grown into the role. Still excitable, but that will come with maturity, whereby he'll be able to tone everything down. What's the SP on Chilwell?
He's around. Oh, in terms of the COVID thing.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's the same. That's a good question. Actually, I'm not sure. Sure. I was going to say he's in the same position as Mount, but I'm not so sure he is. I think Mount was a confirmed contact, whereas I'm not sure Chilwell was. But
see, I've got Chilwell slightly ahead of Shaw. So given if I'm given like the viable option of, they've been able to train together. In an ideal world, if they've been able to train together and they've been able to come into contact with teammates and go through some stuff in terms of like shadow play, set pieces, who marks who, where you should be for this, where you should be for that, and then like crossing and finishing drills, etc. I'd have Chilwell slightly ahead of Shaw.
Yeah.
Maguire, Stones, Walker, Reece James.
Okay, so Walker centre half on the right side.
Yeah, but the way I'll play it, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to convey it, articulate it. The way I would play it is Walker might very well end up coming under the ball to be a 2 if Stones steps in or Maguire steps in with the ball. So if it's Maguire, they shuffle over. If it's Stones, in an ideal world, then they just tuck and come under it. If we're attacking down the right-hand side, I would say push yourself over and in. Right, so if it's rebounded on you, it's not an alien position to you. You're becoming more or less a right back. And if they keep attacking down that side, and it's like I said before, with a pitch cut up into 3/3 long ways, not just horizontally but long ways, and get yourself marking on the outside, so you're actually a right-sided central defender come right back. Not that he needs the head start, but players like myself, you would give yourself a yard and half so you had a head start if the ball is played into that area, or they try and get in behind. He looks like he's still capable of racing anybody and winning most of them. I would have Rice screening. He'll probably play with 2 screening midfield players because it's served him well so far. But I would suggest that if I want to play with 3 centre backs, I'm already reinforced behind, and all you're doing is you're reinforcing the front. And if he can't cover the ground, if I don't think he can cover the ground, Rice, I would have Phillips there. I don't think.
Just on that then, because Henderson come on against Czech Republic.
I know.
So he's another one to throw into the mix. So, did you think he's in with a shout to be involved?
He's definitely in with a shout with Southgate. He wouldn't be in with a shout with me.
No, fair enough.
For two reasons. I'm going to give you two reasons. The first reason is I don't think he's played enough football, right?
Yeah.
But you can't hold that against him because he's very experienced, good player, and very vocal, a good leader, and it looks to me like a top-notch professional. So I wouldn't hold that against him. But more importantly is the second reason, right? If he's going to go for experience, Southgate, right, he's got to ask the question, what's happening in bygone tournaments when we've gone back to our tried and trusted, when we've gone back to our experienced players, when we've gone back to the people that have played in previous tournaments and we think they've performed well, etc., etc. It's ended up fizzling out and coming to nothing. We got out tacticked by Croatia. We got shredded.
And Iceland.
Well, it's fucking. Well, I said to you, didn't I? So we got beat by the international equivalent under Hodgson of Wimbledon, which is Iceland. He couldn't deal with 4-3-3 retreating into 4-5-1. And the best thing about the whole game for me was the war cry, listening to the war cry from the Icelandic fans. And then after that was, you look at Croatia, I had this borderline row with Hudson. When he said, Lord Hudson, when he said in there, when we was all together before Don had the gun to fulfill work commitments elsewhere. So it ain't about Modric then. It weren't about Modric. And I said, no, it fucking weren't. Because at the end of the day, it's like someone said about last night about what if we bump into, who was it was talking about? I said, I'll back my England boys, in well organised, well coached, buoyant, effervescent, purposeful, against anybody. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, I've got that belief in my players. I've got that belief in my formation and my coaching ability, the same way Southgate should have with him and his staff, right? So the bottom line is we got out tactics by, if there's such a word, by Croatia. Where I said to you about if it was me standing next to him, Gaffer, this is what needs to happen because this is what they've done. They've pushed the fullbacks on to create a massive overload in midfield. Henderson's doing doggies with Walker. Right, so we've basically got 3 against 5 in the middle of the park, 4 against 5 when Walker joined it. Right, whereas the fullback, the centre back should have been screaming at him to push in. I'll mark on the outside, right? And so if I'm Stones, I'll say, fucking get on with it, push in and help him. I'll deal with this. Anything over your head is down to me, right? That's how I used to talk and that's how I used to play. So leave them in no uncertain terms what their job is, and if it goes over their head, I'm dealing with it. I'm going to boss it. I'm the governor, right? Now, and the other thing was they should have sent someone on up front to help Harry. Right, because what they've done, they took a chance and left 2v1 against Harry Kane. And they was having like brandy and cigars. Do you know what I mean? Because like our midfield players were doing doggies, so we were out tactics, right? So maybe we got a little bit of revenge for that one. But what I would do is I would say whoever can cover the ground. And if I'm going to go with Rice, right, so we was talking about Henderson, but if I was going to go with Rice, because I'm going to say to myself, I want a new dawn. I want a new era. I want youth. I want effervescence. I want youngsters who, like was shown the other night when you
mentioned Saka. Yeah,
Saka's played with no inhibition, no fear, not interested in what's gone before. I'm in the here and now. Give me the ball and I'll do damage, right? And that's exactly what he did.
I think Saka was born after we beat Germany 5-1. In Germany, right. He's born after that, so it just shows you how, the Euro '96, the penalties. It's a completely bygone era for him. Yeah, it's irrelevant, really.
I'd look in their eyes and I'd just say to the likes of Rice and Phillips, and I would look in training and get a feeling, I'd get a vibe for who wants it the most. And I'd challenge Rice and I'd say, this is what I've been saying about you behind closed doors. This is what I've been saying to you to your face. Can you take it on board and deal with it? As in what I'm saying to you in the podcast.
Yeah.
Our subscribers, you know what I mean? You've got to be more purposeful. You've got to be the springboard for more attacks. You've got to get your head up. You've got to look forward. Your first priority is cannot pass forward. Right? And then lo and behold, fuck my old Dr. Martins. They said exactly the same on the telly, which is, I said to you earlier, how frustrating it is for me. Keane, Souness, and Wright, I think, were the pundits, and Keane and Souness said exactly the same about Rice that I'd said a week before. Right, so it shows we're.
They may listen. They may listen to our. They might be one of the 300 odds.
Well, she obviously don't listen. The bird who's just done the Spain-Croatia game, because I said to you earlier, I think off camera, it's frustrating for me because I only watched half hour of it, so Maybe I'm talking out of turn because I took my wife shopping and then unpacked the shopping while she was cooking so I could speak to you. But she's going, I can't think of one second ball that Spain haven't won. And like I said to you off camera, the higher you go, the less second balls there are. So I don't even know what game she was watching because I didn't see any second balls. Second balls come as a consequence of a knockdown, a half clearance, a punch, a save, tackle, and the ball squirms out. Long ball and a knockdown from your forward or an half clearance from the centre back. That's a second ball, right? Well, the higher you go, there ain't no second balls because the passing's crisp and accurate. You understand? There's no launching it forward, doing an American football Hail Mary out for the best, a la Wimbledon 1984. Do you know what I mean? Surround the ball. Well, that was their pattern of play. The winger the wide player threaten the back, comes short, stand it up in the channel. Fashion who gets his body and his arm in. In the case of Gary Mabbott, dirty, filthy, throws his arm back to break his fucking cheekbone when he's getting marked out of the game. Knocked down. And in the meantime, all of the midfield players have bombed 30 yards to surround the ball. What they used to say, surround the ball. And then what they do, they peg it in that quarter of the field, pinch it back, boom, 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 out the other side. Then it was a minimum prerequisite of crosses. From Colton Fairweather on the left and whoever was on the right. Might have been Terry Gibson or whoever the fuck, I don't know. But it was X amount of crosses had to go into the box. That was the way they played. Well, the higher you go, the less likely that is to happen, right? So I'd look in their eyes and I'd see who wants it the most in training and I'd pick someone to screen the thing and I'd say, and if it's Phillips, I'd say, you might have to rein yourself in a little bit, right? You might have to just check yourself, rein yourself in a bit, rather than looking to break forward and create a goal like you did for Sterling with a reverse pass.
Yeah.
I want you to break things up, but at the same time, so you've got to cover every blade of grass in front of the centre backs. But at the same time, I want you to exactly how we was for a good period against the Czechs, where we were more purposeful and we punched balls in. You had Maguire threaded one through. You had one where he's got closer as he's running, and he's gone bang, and he's fired it into Kane's feet, who I still think's coming too deep. Because this is the way to beat, one of the ways to beat the Germans. Kane's got a mark. He's got a mark. He's got, as in, you say mark him, right? So that's working in shorthand, right? But basically, you're saying to him, get against Hummels and the other centre back.
Rudiger.
Get against them and get round them.
Yeah.
Get round the bound.
Because they're Titanics, aren't they?
Rudiger's got a fucking screw loose.
Yeah.
I'm telling you straight.
No, he
as
bit
a pro,
someone, didn't he?
as an ex-pro, he fucking bit Pogba. He's got a screw loose. Well, what are you trying to do? You're on camera. What you want to be a film star? Do you know what I mean? That's not what I call a disciplined forensic German with like superb plan ability. He can be got at. Hummels can be got at big time. So what you want is the finishing of Kane and you want the pace and the trickery of someone round about him. He's having a good tournament, Sterling. So to finish it off, I would play a diamond. I would have Rice or Phillips at the base of the diamond. Yeah. Right. The right of the diamond in an ideal world would have been Mason Mount, but it's not going to be as a consequence of the COVID threat. And talking to Billy after the game, we get Billy Gilmore, his teammate. After the Scotland game, he's been isolated. He ain't been able to see the lads, be amongst the lads, train with the lads. He might have a part to play further on in the tournament. So in his place, I'm going to put Foden. And then at the tip of the diamond, you could go either or. You could go Sterling to the right and you could have Foden at the top of the diamond playing off of Harry Kane. On the left of the diamond, I would have Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
Right, and then Kane finishes
powerful,
it off.
It's powerful.
It is powerful. It's a powerful setup. It's and two powerful units.
Yeah.
Going forward and thing. And then when you lose the ball, if you look at their shape last night, so I think he's a bit of a coach in Martinez. He's a bit of a tasty coach, and I don't think he's had enough credit because he's got all them egos. He's got all those top-notch players. He's got all those world-class players, or they've been in and around world-class teams. Your De Bruyne's. You look at the centre-backs, they've been in and around the top of the Premier League with Spurs. You look at the one that was at Arsenal. You've got Lukaku, who's been Chelsea. He's been all over.
Goal scorer at Inter Milan, wasn't he? The last season.
He's top goal scorer
won the league.
At Milan, won the thing, yeah. So he's handled things well. Not only that, he's got them playing to a system. You know what I mean? So it looked powerful, and I think we could look as powerful. But for me, the keys are getting round about the centre backs.
Yeah.
Very, very vulnerable, I think.
So just vulnerable. On that then, does Kane, you said Kane mark him, so do you say to Kane, stay on the last man? Be the focal point at all times, never come deep? Or do you sometimes say, no, you swap with Sterling sometimes in order to get a bit of pace?
You rotate with Sterling, but only on the edge of the attacking third. Okay. What you do, Joe, this is what you do. You run through it. They've had a week to prepare.
Yeah.
So you run through it on the training field. Once they've recharged their batteries, they've had their massages and their warm downs, and they've got the electrolytes in them and whatever you call it, all the gear they take now.
Yeah.
And they've done their stretching program. Then you're back out on the training field. You run through it on the training field. And I think the key is for Harry to stay as high as possible and get against their two centre backs. Right, give them a marking problem. Also, you got a world-class. I don't think he's a world-class player, but he's a world-class finisher, because I don't think he's a good enough threat. He hasn't been a good enough threat or good enough in the air for someone who's 6'3", 6'4", right? He doesn't win enough. He doesn't win enough flick-ons, right? He's not particularly quick, but he's a world-class finisher. Well, that makes people nervous, because I'm telling you, as an ex-centre-back, you think... I know when we played like FA Cup ties, League Cup ties, from their pedigree, if you give them half a yard, they'll explode a shot off or they'll thread a ball. So you had to get right within blocking distance, and it affects their mentality, and it affects the way they mark, and it affects the way they play their game. You understand? They're always on an edge. They're always on a knife edge. I'll tell you, I took my lead from Ronnie Harris, and people forget Jimmy Greaves. He came through the ranks at Chelsea. He was a youth team player and a first team player at Chelsea before he was anywhere else. He was a Chelsea man, Jimmy Greaves, right? And that's where he learned his trade, right? He went on to have an unbelievable record for England and for Spurs, and he went to Italy and came back and had a dabble at West Ham, right? But he was a Chelsea man. And I remember Ronnie Harris saying, he said, when he left, he said, I already knew him from in training. He said, and we were so competitive. He said, I could have marked him out of a training game, he said, and just had a little sigh of relaxation for 30 seconds, and then the ball's in the back of the net. So that's the point I'll make, right? So when Greavesy went away and played for Spurs, Ronnie's marking him again, but it's now Chelsea v Spurs, right? So I've taken that. Little seeds were sown all the way through my life and all the way through my playing career, all the way through my coaching career, right? Little seeds like that were sown, whereby, well, if you're dealing with a player the caliber of Harry Kane, that's the psyche, that's the place they're in mentally as a defender.
It's stress, isn't it? Really, it's sort of.
It is stress, and you've got to give them as much stress as they can. In the end, they can't handle it. Yeah. You've got to give them so many problems. It's what I was saying about last night when I was on Twitter. Just have a quick look. It only happens momentarily, but just have a look at the marking problems that Portugal had when Belgium come. It was like boom, and they come into that diamond shape. But then they had Lukaku high and up the middle, which is where Kane's got to be, occupying the centre backs, right? Because what happens is when you create marking problems for the rest of the team, he opens it up for Lukaku. You look how many times he bent his run into the channel, or he's got the ball and he's running at the centre backs. You understand what I mean? And that's how we. And this is how we beat Germany, I believe.
Yeah, and like you say, with that, I guess Hummels and Rudiger are their weak links, and if they are playing under that stress, they are focusing so much on stopping Harry Kane getting chances. That leaves Foden, Grealish, Sterling with a bit more space, and it's just so many things they've got to worry about. And I guess it sounds like we've got to make them worry about more players than we worry about them. I mean, I don't know about you, but who would you say there? I mean, personally, I think someone like Muller, although he's old, and he got asked by the manager to come back, he's still a big threat.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that.
But
the fact that that's the case, and the fact that no one springs to mind, I think it bodes well.
Yeah.
For us, as long as
Guy Havertz, bit milky, and Havertz, Kai Havertz.
Well, he's done all right. He's done all right for Chelsea, but I think it can be dealt with. I think it can be dealt with. I think he's one of them. If things are not going well, he can go on the missing list like he did under Frank. Do Do you know what I mean? And I think it's the same for the national side. He goes on the missing list. And if they're having a purple, he'll go, he gets the service like he did for Chelsea against Man City in in the cup semi-final. Then he looks $1 million. But there's times when it's not going well. He goes on the missing list. I think he actually got the winning goal, didn't he, to get him in the cup final against Leicester, if my memory serves me right. And he looked a constant threat. And I think he had 3, maybe 4 good chances and converted 1, right? But he can go on the missing list. And I think the fact that no one springs to mind, like days of yore, you go, how are we going to break that back 4 down, or that back 3, or that back 5 down? Then you look in the middle of the park, fucking
Mateus and all that.
Netzer, then Mateus after him. You know what I mean? Players like this. Then you look up front, Hernis, Muller, like the latter day centre forwards, I should say, Germany, that they're always sort of.
That closer. I mean, he seemed like a donkey, but he scored more goals in the World Cup than anyone else. He always scored, didn't he? That closer.
Klinsmann's a pundit now.
Yeah.
So they sort of, although I'm looking slightly contradictory, because if I refer to football history, it tends to be through coaching or playing experiences rather than naming names. They did trip off the tongue years ago. They did trip off the tongue, and I don't think that's the case now.
No,
I don't think that's the case now. I think we've got to get round about them, and they can be exposed with the pace and trickery we've got in the team.
So they've got obviously Klose and Gundogan in the midfield. Who Gundogan's had a very good season for Man City. Klose, not Klose. Yeah. Kroos, Tony Kroos. Sorry,
Kroos.
Yeah, Kroos. But I guess that as always, if you've got that rotation of those 4 players in the midfield, certainly 3, maybe Rice in the front of the back 3, that can cause an awful lot of pressure and stress for Kroos, who likes to have the space. He likes to come deep. He likes to play that sort of Modric quarterback role. And so I guess it's a case of putting them under stress, whereas they're quite glamour. Certainly, he's a bit of a glamour player, Kroos, isn't he?
That's why Kane, for me, Harry Kane's the key.
Yeah.
Because what happens is, right, if he gets against one or t'other, let's say in terms of the least experienced, got half a screw loose, not really bothered whether I'm beating for pace or not, but I'm going to dominate him in the air, what I should do, I would get against Rudiger. In which case Hummels will have to act as insurance for Rudiger, so that pushes him back, right? So that's where he can operate, Foden or Sterling, right? So then what will happen is Hummels or Rudiger on that, whoever side on this, saying, get in here and screen the front, or better still, mark him so I can be spare. So it pushes him back. So he'll set the precedent from the front, working their way backwards. Kane, if he's got to get against one of the centre backs.
Very interesting that.
Literally mark him.
Very interesting, because I obviously he hasn't played like that for a while. Kane, it's going to be really interesting if he does stick on their toes and not come deep.
Well, what he's got to start doing, I'll look at the shaking hands with everybody, shaking hands with the officials, shaking hands with the opposition and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's fine. But like, obviously you are high profile. Obviously you are, sort of in the media eye and all that. But what you've got to do when it comes down to it, you've got to start firing into people in the dressing room where it matters. You've got to put yourself on offer and raise your profile in a team meeting or in the dressing room, and start placing demands on teammates. Or if you have a meeting with the manager, me personally, I would say, Harry, this is not what we've rehearsed. I don't want you coming that deep, right? And then I know that he should have an answer ready for me. Well, I'm coming deep to get the ball, and the supply of crosses that I need is not coming in, right? Well, that's where you start getting onto the people who should I want you, as soon as you get half a yard, and to be fair, he does deliver a good ball as well, sure. But I've got Chilwell in terms of the shape he puts on it, slightly ahead of him in terms of the accuracy in the areas you're looking to hit.
Reece James is fantastic, isn't he, as well?
On the other side, that's probably his primary asset, is his delivery. going forward, and his delivery across is better going forward than he is defending. Put it that way. That's why I'd
Yeah,
have the insurance of Cole Walker on that side.
because that's their threat. I mean, their fullbacks get very high and wide, and they put a lot of crosses in, and that's where their goals have come from, isn't it? Germany seems to be their main
Right.
threat.
Well, what happens is there, Joe. You've got to play cat and mouse with them. You've got so like Cole Walker on that side and Maguire on that side, and if it's Maguire, he says to Stones, "Get over," or Stones, better still, should see the whole picture, the bigger picture, and he should be saying to Maguire, "Push over," and he tucks round, right, to give him that insurance. That's where you say to your fullbacks, "Don't worry about them. You get high, get wide, and play your game. And anything over your head's down to me, I'll deal with it."
And I suppose you could bring Rice in if they overload you, can't you?
Yeah, well,
he can play in that position.
That should be part of his remit.
Yeah.
So if he sees a gap, too big a gap, let's say between Walker and Stones, in terms of the team I've named, so Walker's end up out there, he should be willing to bust a gut and make like a 10, 15, 20-yard run to actually come in and make a 4.
Yeah.
You understand? Or come in and make a 3, depending what side the ball's in.
Yeah.
With Rice, it's very simple for him. All he's got to do is draw a line. So I talk about 3/3 that way, and I talk about 3/3 that way. All he's got to do when you're screening, when you act as a screening midfield player, all you've got to do is draw a straight line through the opposition, from the opposition penalty spot all the way down the pitch through the centre spot where they kick off from down to your penalty spot. And then that will give you a rough idea on how to gauge your distances and where you should be at what time in relation to the ball.
Interesting.
And what it is, I've always said, Joe, it's about placement of players. And then what you do, with regards, especially the way the modern game's gone, right, it's imperative. Your placement of players is imperative because it's now far more athleticism and pace involved. So what you've got to do, your placement of the players has got to help your players cut down the distances that they have to cover. That's what I believe.
Well, because I guess otherwise you're doing what we was doing against Croatia, and you just get
in Russia
tired.
Yeah. Fucking doggies side to side. I felt so sorry for Henderson and Walker. I felt so sorry. And all it needed was this fucking highly revered coaching team he's got round him, specialists in this, specialists in that, specialists in the other. Well, just be a specialist all-round coach who can spot fucking danger and a massive overload when you need to, and counter it. And not only counter it and nullify the threat, but also offer a threat going the other way, which is where I'd have said get someone up front to help Harry and keep. Yeah. You're going to at least keep one of their fullbacks pushed back, because they just went with their centre backs 2v1 against Harry, going back to ancient history. And then what they would have needed to get one of the fullbacks or one of the midfield players to screen the front, or one of the fullbacks back to engage. And stay within contact to the centre backs, because they've had to play 3 against 2.
So, team talk. You're Southgate. You picked your side. What do you say before the game? Do we quick start, go for the jugular, try and overawe them, get into them, try and get 1 or 2 goals up, or do we feel our way into the game, keep it tight, try and nick a 1-0? How would you approach the game? Blood and thunder or caution?
No, I think I'd say we've got to be patient, but at the same time we've got to be purposeful.
Yeah.
If we get a chance to play the ball forward, there was like slight contradiction between orders and perception of orders, because I saw an article involving Raheem Sterling, and he said about for one game in particular, I think it might have been the Croatia game, where he said we needed to keep the ball better than we did, whereas Southgate was saying, well, you don't, paraphrasing slightly, I don't subscribe to this football snobbery with regards to the furthest ball forward or a long ball. It's like I said before, it goes back. It's funny, all the pundits played in the 80s and 90s.
They're just called long balls diags now.
Well, I'll always go back to what he said, Bob Paisley. It's not when someone tried to pin him down, maybe mug him off and get a controversial talking point in the media. He said, look, let's have it right. It's not about the short pass. It's not about the long pass. It's about the right pass. So it's just playing football with common sense. But I would say be patient but purposeful. Let's have a little bit more of that period we had against Czechoslovakia, who've grown into the tournament, by the way.
Yeah, good result against Holland.
That showed what a good result that was.
Yeah.
Because they dealt with the Dutch, who I thought were like, but they've always got something. There's always a problem there with the Dutch. There's always something, you know what I mean? And they're always bound to implode. Which is a bit disappointing.
Yeah.
But when you look at the result that the Czechs got against them, I think that makes our result look even more respectable.
Yeah.
So patient but purposeful. And listen, we've got a chance. We've got a chance to make history.
Go on then. So, what's your prediction? Don't say penalties, for fuck's sake.
No, I don't think it will. I don't think it will.
Okay.
Listen, I think if we score first, I think we could go on to win it comfortably. I think we could go on to win it something like 3-1. If Germany score first, I don't even want to go there. I don't even want to think. I don't even want to think of the consequences.
So you don't think we can? You think we'll melt? We can't come back from being a goal down. We'll be too overawed, too scared, nervous.
No, well, no. I'll tell you why. I'll qualify it again. Over the decades, like all high-achieving national sides, like high-achieving club sides, Germany have always been blessed with the modern parlance is game management, good game management. I always call it professionalism, right? Some of it unethical. And part of the dark arts, and they're the absolute governors. I mean, we were really and truly, we were by far the. If you cast your mind back, is a classic, for instance, right? Gascoigne's tears, right? You cast your mind back to that game in 1990. We were by far the better side for long periods of the game. We were by far the better side in extra time, and yet we lost on penalties.
Right? And they won the World Cup.
And they went on to win it, right? Now, you look at the thing with Gascoigne, he barely touched the guy, right? So that's what I mean by the dark arts and being a bit cute, a bit streetwise, a little bit naughty. And he went rolling over and over and over and over like, someone had fucking kneecapped him with a 12-ball. And that's part of what I mean.
I thought he was going to say
I always tickle you with at least one, don't I? He did though, didn't he? And you heard the scream from him. You heard the scream from him. You heard the scream from Matthias to the ref. Then you heard the scream from the bench, the whole German bench. Next thing you know, Gascoigne's fucking carded. He's not playing in the final if we get there. This is part of what I mean. They pull out every trick in the book. And all this, I've said it for decades. All this fucking, it's not cricket. Do you know what I mean? My counter to that is we're far too English, right? We invented cricket, but for a long time, it might not be cricket, but we've never been the governors at it. It's always been one or someone, the fucking Australians or the West Indians, or even India or Pakistan. You know what I mean? So all that, just because we invented it, it doesn't mean like we ain't got to adjust things. And where football's concerned, it's time to stop being so English. I've said it for decades.
Well, would it be fair to say, I was talking to someone yesterday about it in a sense that when's the next time we're going to have a chance like we've got now to win the tournament when we could basically play every game, if not maybe one, but pretty much every game at home.
The next one. You know why I say that, Joe?
Go on.
We got to the semi-final in Russia.
Yeah.
And everyone was going on about what a fantastic achievement and how we reconnected with the fans and blah, blah, blah. And me, again, at the risk of being a killjoy and at the risk of being a party pooper and being a miserable fucker and perceived as too intense and miserable and negative like I was at Orient, because I ain't got a fucking clue what I was saying behind closed doors, right? I said, what's a complete and utter load of bollocks. Don't you think that all the teams that never qualified and all the teams that went home early and all the teams that had a fucking Lionel, right? Don't you think they're going to reinvent themselves? Don't you think there's going to be a renaissance from Argentina, Germany, Italy, Spain, Belgium, France, Holland? Don't you think they're all going to pick themselves up, dust themselves off and say, you know what, we're not having that again. We're not having another tournament like that, right? They're going to be doing exactly the same as what we're going to be trying to do. So your best chance, right, is now. And if it's not now, it's the next one. Because like I said before, right, there's a few things, right? But like I said before, when you think about it, the sports science side of things, for me, it always comes down to the coaching and organisation. And it comes down to the marriage of that to the players' belief and national pride, right? When you look at like the Italians now, their veins are coming out of their neck. And I said it on the last podcast, lo and behold, what does he say last night? Roy Keane, when they sing the national anthem, the veins are coming out of their neck, right? And at the same time, they marry that to the relationship with the coach being organised and absolutely playing at an unbelievable tempo from the first whistle to the last, right? So I believe your best chance is always now, and then if not, it's the next one, because purely and simply, like I'm saying, it's all equal. The medical side, the physiology and anatomy side, the sports science side, everybody in the world, except for maybe a few African nations, everybody else in the world is on par. Everybody else is level. So it boils down purely and simply to how well you set up and how badly do you want it.
Well, the reason I get that totally, and I think the reason I thought if we don't do it now, just because we're playing at home, and we've got, if we can beat Germany, we've got a very kindly draw again.
Yeah, we have.
If we melt and go out to Germany and produce another turgid affair where we go 1-0 down and everyone hides and doesn't want the ball, I actually give up. I actually give up with England.
Yeah.
Because I'm not sure they'll ever win a tournament. Yeah. I'm not sure they'll ever do anything.
Well, if I'm honest, I've said in on Twitter, I've said it in my book, I think I said it in my book, I've said it on podcast most definitely. Deep down, I suppose I'm wrong. But I've said that I don't think in my lifetime England will win anything. Purely and simply because they haven't listened to the likes of me. I'm talking at FA coaching level. I'm talking about people who were innovators, and I've basically plagiarized from those innovators, and I've tried to enhance it, or I've tried to make something a little bit different, the same but different, right? Now, what I mean by that is you look at all the greatest manager we never had, they say, is Clough, right? Well, you can do a 2-hour podcast on him alone, on the pluses and minuses of Brian Clough. I prefer to look at it. So like Lord Hudson said, it's all about management. And I said, I disagree. I think it's all about coaching. He said, well, it's the manager that brings it all together. So I said, well, at England level, that doesn't really matter. Hence the title head coach rather than manager for Southgate. I think a football club or a national side can do without a manager, but they can't do without a coach. So we'll have to agree to disagree. One of the greatest innovators, godfather of coaching in this country, in my opinion, who was 30, 35, 40 years ahead of his time, was Malcolm Allison. His personality frightened people. He said things that were abstract. He said things that were at times totally wrong and were insulting. And I've been in his company, and he could be insulting. But the point being, they've got to start listening. They've got, you've got a manager who embarrassed himself and his club by getting hold of a player around the throat and pinning him down over a throw-in, and then saying to journalists, "What are you, an ostrich?" Right? Well, I'll go on the record and say it's far worse than what I ever did. But at the same time, I'm inclined to say the same thing about the FA. They've just, for years and years and years, decades and decades, they've stuck their head in the sand, and they haven't been willing. All they've done, and don't think for 1 minute that football, like I've said before, and politics, and like I'm saying in my second book, is not inextricably linked, because it is. And I don't think it should be. But what they've done all the right things and made all the right sounds and noises with regards to current affairs and politics. in this country, and that's been for decades, rather than get it right on the football field. And it's like I've said, and it was wasted. Big ideas were wasted on a little club, and I've got fuckheads talking on Twitter saying, imagine thinking you're still relevant and come and pick me up in your cab after an Orient game. I've got a fiver for you. That's like a fucking dagger to the heart. Because I gave them 10 years top draw ability, service, dedication, professionalism, pride and passion, right? And that's the thanks you get, right? But more importantly, where I was concerned, I had massive ideas for a small and small-minded football club. And one of them was at the Centre of Excellence, cherry-picking players to create a hybrid of what I've always said. People with the audacity and laissez-faire attitude of the French, the sophistication of passing and movement of the Spanish, the defensive discipline and the enjoyment of defending of the Italians, the forensic discipline of the Germans, with a strategy based on data, and the cynicism of a South American. That's my ideal hybrid player that I wanted to produce.
Frankenstein, but in a good way.
Yeah, but in a good way, yeah. For Leighton Orient. What a fucking waste of time, what a waste of talent, and what a waste of ideas that was. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's I don't want to big the game. Well, I suppose we have bigged the game up, but it feels existential for me, this game. We must win. I said,
Joe, you know what I said on Twitter after the Scotland game? I said, I'm going to work. I said, I've had the first, because all the sweaties were in town. They were different gear. They were different gear. There was banter. They brought life to the city. They enjoyed themselves. They had a drink. And you got like middle-class fucking wannabes and knobheads in the borough of Westminster complaining about the litter they left in Leicester Square. Well, the fucking country's been shut for 15 months. We've all been skint for 15 months. They brought life to the city, right? And I'm telling you now, right, every sandwich bar, every coffee bar, when they was having a break from the bevy, every supermarket, every fucking KFC, whatever, any other takeaway joint you care to name, they was coming out with bagfuls of food, and then they was coming out of the supermarket with crates and crates of lager, and then there was it in the bars after that when they've got served out the bar and they've bought tinnies because it was closing time. I said they brought life and effervescence to the city, right? And then I said, and not only that, they was telling me they've had it booked for a year, they've saved for a year, and they were getting black cabs all over the gaff because they know the coup. Because they've got their heads screwed on. They're not some fucking middle-class millennial hipster yuppie wannabe who spent $6.50 on a bottle of Budweiser in a muggy city or West End bar. Now they're looking to save 80 pence and get a fucking Uber. They were jumping in black cabs because, no, I want to tell you the truth. If you work it out, that's a good point, two up or more, it's cheaper than the tube. Two up or more in a black cab is cheaper than the tube, depending on how far out you're going, obviously, right? Right, so you divvy it up, and there was 4 and 5 handed from Wembley back to King's Cross, right? Then I says, you know what? I've put in a shift. It's 3/4 of a shift. I'm going to get home for the game, right? The first 15 minutes I'm listening to on the radio, right? And again, I'm talking about the other little thing earlier on with the bird, and there's a few of them. There's a few pundits like it. I'm listening to Sol Campbell, who says he's a great football mind and etc., which I don't doubt. He's one of my top-rated centre-backs, top 5 English centre-backs of all time. And then we've got Sol Campbell here helping us, paraphrasing, Sol Campbell helping us here summarise, talk us through England, Scotland. Sol? We've got to keep going. We've got to keep doing what we're doing and keep the Scottish under pressure. I'm like, what the fuck? And I can't get a gig. But I rush home for the game. I've listened to the first 15 minutes on the radio. I get in, and then I think, I says to my wife, what was I thinking? Again, I feel let down by England. I'm not doing it again. If it's busy, I'm staying out, and I'll make do with the radio and watch the highlights at gone 11 o'clock. Right? And you're talking about it being existential.
Mm.
Fuck me. And not only that, but it's cost me, having just renewed my insurance, a small fortune in lost takings. They were going 5 up from Wembley. They gave one cabbie a Scottish £100 note and said, keep the change.
Jesus. And they're meant to be squeaky. Obviously not.
Listen, I've had them. The Scots, the Irish, the Welsh rugby mob, right? Trust me, they know how to enjoy themselves. Trust
definitely.
me.
Party
and they're not bothered. When they're out, they're like how I am. I want them on holiday, I want them out. You know what I mean? And what goes around comes around.
Out or out, out?
And you tip people. I ain't been out for years. I can't take it anymore.
We should get Mickey Flanagan on there soon. He might know, get you to having a cockney banter. That'd be great quality.
I had a bit of banter with him. He was in the back, John Bishop.
Oh,
we had a good giggle. Yeah. He's a nice guy.
All right, cool. All right, then. Well, on that note, let's do another one after the game, and here's hoping for an effing fantastic result. And let's be honest, any result, as long as it's positive, will do.
As long as it's positive, it doesn't matter how you get through, as long as you get through.
Exactly.
It's what you said, Joe. The path, one assumes, is a little bit easier. That side of the draw. You get me? So I think now, time to put down Mom, the daddies for me so far, so good at the eye ties. I love them. And
mind you, struggled a bit against Austria. So, not every team seemed a little bit fallible thus far. No one's absolutely tearing up any trees, really. But
I totally agree. But then they still kept it 0-0, and then they just put it in cruise control in extra time, and I turned it off at 2-0.
I mean, they still ain't conceded. Yeah, I get you.
I'll tell you, there's a common denominator with them, with the ability of like the Italians, people like the Italians and the Germans, right? And here's the thing, and this is something we've got to learn to do, right? And it's what I used to use the phrase a hell of a lot at Leyton Orient, right? It's no good just we put them under pressure and then it's forgotten. You understand? I said the key is sustain pressure. Right, and what the Germans and the likes of the Italians are very good at, they're very good at turning the screw.
Yeah, it's that stress thing again, isn't it?
Once they've got you under the cosh, right, they won't let you off the hook.
Yeah,
they won't let you off the hook. There's no mercy, and that's what we've got to get better at. We have a little purple. We have a little 10 minutes. 10 minutes against the Czechs, 10 minutes against Croatia, 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. Yeah. We've got to learn to turn the screw.
Relentless.
Yeah, relentless. Yeah. And that means everything: energy, pace, tempo, and passing, movement, discipline. And then what I've seen, like I've said for ages, but defending it's a dying art. So as a coach, you're watching it, and I'm watching that, and we're turning the screw. But you always throw little reminders at your defenders, your centre backs in particular. You know what I mean? That's what we've got to learn.
Well, hopefully we can out Germany the Germans. That sounds like what we need to do.
Yeah.
Okay, well, as always, guys, this is to the followers. Please like, subscribe, and follow us, particularly John. And if you've got any questions for the post-mortem against of the Germany game, let us know. DM me if possible, or DM John, and I'll fire them to John in the next few days. Hope you enjoyed it. He's hoping for a great result.
I have, Joe. Yeah, and I listen. I appreciate you showing up and taking the time and trouble to pose a few riddles, pose a few questions. If I can just intercede very quickly, what we want is our loyal subscribers and listeners, if they can, to spread the word.
Yes. Let's get John on telly. That's. I think we should have a campaign. Get John back on telly, and not in a nefarious way, in a positive way. And I do think it will happen, John. I am convinced you will be back where you belong. We just got to keep going.
You think I should maybe get the credit card out and do what Sooney's done? Get the thing, get the nose done, get the teeth, have my ears pinned back, maybe a bit of an hair thing. I don't know. All the decent pundits played in the 80s and 90s, so that's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, I don't take this from word, but sometimes you need a counter factual. You know what I mean? And you can't. They all can't look the same. Someone's got to look like someone, a real person, I suppose. I mean, GB News has just come out. I mean, I don't know what they're doing with sport. They like a view that's slightly different to the mainstream. So, you know, maybe there's a gig there. But in any case, John isn't going to get a gig if you don't spread the word. And hopefully you guys, you know, enjoy what we're doing, and we're going to keep doing it. And yeah, all
Give
good.
away. That's right. Like
Yes.
you said, way back when we'll plough our own furrow.
Yes.
But what I hope, Joe, above all else, is that even if it's just one thing per podcast, between the two of us, you pulling it out
I'll
of
get
me.
it out of you. Yeah.
Yeah, we just enlighten people or make someone aware of something that they might not have been aware of before, which was always my self-imposed remit as a coach. That's what I always believed. If you could teach a player or make them aware of something they weren't aware of before, or teach them something one new thing a week at least, when you're dealing with youngsters, then you've done your job.
Yeah, and you are. It's clear you're a teacher, and my job is just to ask them probing questions to get you thinking, so that you then just things start tripping off the tongue, because it's all in there. It just needs to be. You know, you just talk. You need to be probed and pressed, and that's my job. So hopefully people are enjoying that. I am. I enjoyed doing it, John. You're a fountain of knowledge, and it's fascinating listening to you.
Kind words, sir. Kind words, sir. Kind words.
All right, guys. We'll see you soon. All right.
Thanks for listening.
Cheers, guys.
See you next time, and hopefully it's off the back of good news, huh?
All the best.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers. Let me just cancel that.